Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, UFC 294 took place yesterday afternoon, and I want to give a brief recap, summary, all of that good stuff for the entire card. I will start with the early prelim opener and work my way up. I'll try to go through some of the earlier fights a little bit faster, although some of them I would like to spend a little bit of time on. Let's get right to it. First fight of the night was MAGOMEDOV versus Bruno Silva. Now, I picked Bruno Silva to possibly get an upset here because watching Magomedov's previous fights, I could see a hole in his boxing defense, and I said this in my picks video. I also said that his takedown defense is not great, nor is his grappling. Bruno Silva has only been knocked out one time. He has been submitted a gang of times, though, which is actually pretty important to what we will talk about in just a brief moment here. Now, MAGOMEDOV clearly wonderful kicks, beautiful kicks, very good. Now, after the first round, they lost a lot of the snap that they had on them, but he's still very good at using them to keep distance and, you know, for the most part, remain safe on the feet. However, he leaves his chin a little bit wide open. He leaves it a little bit up in the air also. His defense with the hands is almost non-existent. He keeps his hands low, which does kind of aid his style. Bruno Silva had some good moments. The only problem is that when he would get to the ground with Magomedov was able to do more damage than Bruno Silva was. But as I just spoke about earlier, Bruno Silva is not the best grappler in the world. He has been submitted a gang of times, and not just by guys that are like unreal, like GM3 or Brendan Allen and guys like this. I think he's gotten seven or nine times he's been submitted throughout his career as a whole, and Magomedov had zero takedown defense whatsoever against Bruno Silva. I had seen him defend takedowns against a couple of guys in his earlier career, but he was fighting guys that were a lot smaller than him, one, for the most part, and two, didn't have the best records. He hasn't been fighting the best guys. And Bruno Silva, while he is a vet, kind of, he's been around for a good while, he's fought a ton of good competition. He is not a top level guy, and as I said, his grappling, his takedowns, that's not really what he's known for. So, moving forward, I don't think that all of the hype that Magomedov had on him was justified, and I kind of said this in my picks video. I didn't understand it. I feel like it really was just because he's from Dagestan, the one eye, like the way that he looks, all of that shit. Moving forward, I do think that he will have issues with the guys at the top of middleweight, or maybe not even at the top of middleweight. Like Bo Nickel might be able to do whatever he wants to this guy, because there was even a moment where Bruno Silva was completely backed up against the fence. Magomedov had him within pretty close striking distance. No momentum whatsoever for Bruno Silva. He's able to duck under a shot and take Magomedov, down from that area. And that's just like, man, there was no resistance whatsoever. And he wasn't even able to really get back to his feet after that either. The only thing is that he was landing good shots from his back with the elbows and things like that. And I think that that's ultimately what won him the fight, because Bruno Silva wasn't able to mount a whole lot of offense on the ground. Now, obviously, he was able to cut him open a little bit over the eyebrow. He was able to bust up his nose a little bit, but not a whole lot. I don't think... I've seen some people say this was a robbery. I'm not quite sure how they came to that conclusion, but I just think that there was so much hype on Magomedov that when he comes in and has a somewhat underwhelming performance, that people kind of jump to that conclusion. As I said, I don't think that all the hype was all that justified. Obviously, very good kicks. Not all that great with the hands. Not all that great with the defense, or takedown defense, or getting back to his feet. And I think that there are a lot of guys at middleweight that would absolutely have their way with him. Okay. He did hurt Bruno Silva at one point. Beautiful shot, head kick. He followed it up with two straight shots. I think it was, I think he went straight left and then a right jab right after he had kicked him. But Bruno Silva apparently has replenished his chin and he's gotten it back. So, you know, I mean, he could potentially land a shot on a guy like that who maybe wouldn't take it as well as Bruno Silva did. But I do think there are a lot of guys at middleweight who will essentially do whatever they want with him. They will take him down. They will do, as I said, whatever they want. Submit him, beat him up on the ground. Bruno Silva's not known for that. So it is what it is. Look, it was a fun fight. It was a good way to open it up. And it will be interesting to see him moving forward, but I just don't know how far he will go. And it was funny, at the post-fight press conference, one of the Abu Dhabi, or at least it sounded like it, one of the Abu Dhabi journalists asked Dana White, do you think Magomedov is the future of the sport? Dana White basically flat out said no. He goes, you know, when you come here, you have to have the whole game. You can't just be a striker. You have to be able to, at the very least, defend a takedown, and he couldn't really do that. So, good performance overall. Tough first opponent, to be fair, right? As a debut, Bruno Silva's no slouch, but he's definitely not a top guy. Now, let's move up to the next fight, which totally took the wind out of everybody's sails. Victoria Dudakova versus Jinyu FREY. I picked Victoria Dudakova to win this one. However, first of all, she missed weight. Second of all, considering she was a minus 500, that was an unbelievably underwhelming performance. I don't know that you could ever put a I'm sorry. I don't know that you could ever put a top, a non-top contender, a non-title fight, female fight with a that big of a favorite. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Jinyu FREY has lost 3 straight. She's almost 40 years old. She is not all that great, and Victoria Dudakova struggled with her at moments, especially in round 2. It was just overall a slightly underwhelming performance, especially considering, as I said, she missed weight, and the odds were fucking wild. But it is what it is. It was a okay fight, I guess. It was just, you know, it is what it is, man. Unranked women's MMA sometimes could put you to sleep, but then we get Nathaniel Wood versus Naimov, pardon me. Now, I picked Naimov as an underdog here, and he did get the job done, but I will say, not without a fair share of cheating, okay? Hooking gloves, grabbing the cage, nut shots, 2 of which were seen by the referee. One of them, towards the end of round 3, was not, and Nathaniel Wood, you could see him wince in pain and shake his head and just try to keep it going, but, man, it was very unfortunate. I wish that the referees would have done a little bit more here. There was multiple fights where I believe we had referee failures. And, yeah, I don't, you know, they're in Abu Dhabi, so it kind of is what it is. I don't know, but these refs, man, not great. Not great at all. Okay, so Naimov hurt Nathaniel Wood at the beginning of the fight. Dropped him. I'm not sure why it didn't count as a takedown, but or knockdown, pardon me, but it didn't. Nathaniel Wood comes back at the end of that round and hurts him. And Naimov kind of was saved by the fence there. So it was a good, fun first round. But, man, after that, Naimov essentially used cheating to win this fight. Now, he won round 2. Round 3, I do believe, went to Nathaniel Wood. I think Naimov felt that he had it in the bag. Maybe was tired a little bit, took his foot off the gas completely, just tried to remain safe, but got 1 takedown throughout the course of the 3rd round. Again, another slightly underwhelming performance. And I do feel bad for Nathaniel Wood, because it's, if you get fouled that many times in a fight and the ref's not doing fuck, like, there should have been a point taken, 100%. And then these scorecards would have looked a whole lot different, because even if it's an accidental foul like a nut shot, if you do it twice, man, and they are bad enough to the point where Nathaniel Wood is actually, like, in pain, take a point. The referee is supposed to weigh how much that foul could have potentially affected the outcome of the fight, or could potentially affect the outcome of the fight. And considering Nathaniel Wood took two pretty hard nut shots and was in pain, like, pretty badly, I feel as though that referee should have taken a point. And then even when he was hooking the glove, grabbing the cage and doing shit like this, the referee's kind of just like, no, don't do that. Do you know what I mean? Stern warnings don't mean shit, bro, if you're not going to do something the fuck after. And it's a little annoying to see, especially when it did seem to favor a certain demographic of fighter throughout the course of this card. And we're going to get to some of those later. Now we're going to move up the card too. Mike BREEDEN versus Anshul Jubli. Anshul Jubli had quite a bit of hype on him simply because he was an Indian fighter who's coming in, and I do believe he was the first one fighting out of India. But, and dude, in the cage, this man looks like a slightly darker Yair Rodriguez. It is insane. They are uncanny, but he, you know, not quite as dynamic. Now, in the first round, he did look phenomenal. Landed beautiful shots. I feel as though he kind of let Mike BREEDEN off the hook a couple of times, but I do think that he gassed himself out in one of those times when Mike BREEDEN was not as hurt as maybe he thought he was. BREEDEN is like Drew Dober or something, man, or Trevor Peek or one of these guys. This guy's got an unreal chin, just an absolute dog. Now, he did miss weight by a massive amount, right? He weighed in at 159.5. Not great. Victoria Dudakova missed weight by 0.6 pounds. You know what I mean? This guy missed weight by 3.5 pounds. So not a good look, but an insane comeback, especially considering how that first round went. Now, as I said, Anshul Jubli looked phenomenal in the opening round. Very clean striking and was, you know, countering. Even when he was going first, he was doing phenomenal. Eyes wide open, seeing everything that Mike Breeden was throwing his way. Chopping the legs, front kicks to the body, which is smart considering the guy missed weight. So you would have to assume that he had a tough time cutting weight. The next round was a little bit closer. Anshul Jubli towards the end of round 2, from what I remember, kind of took his foot off of the gas a little bit. Mike Breeden was starting to figure out the timing of some of his shots, pulling away from leg kicks and things like that, not allowing Anshul Jubli to do what he did in the first round, especially not by that wide of a margin. Round 3, he essentially completely took his foot off the gas, just like NAIMOV probably thought, I won the first 2 rounds. I just got to remain safe. But Mike Breeden was like, no, the fuck you aren't. Barking at him, going crazy, screaming. Absolute savage. It was a very fun 3rd round, and to finish it off with a knockout like that after getting beaten handedly in the first 2 was pretty impressive. Do you know what I mean? It is unfortunate that it's kind of overshadowed by the fact that he missed weight by such a big amount, but it is what it is, man. Anshul Jubli, maybe not what people thought he was. Mike Breeden, while he's good, he is not nearly a top level guy in the UFC. At least his record is not great. He's lost a few in a row before this fight, and yeah, man, Anshul Jubli, unfortunate for him, man. He had a great first 2 rounds. He did seem to completely gas in that 3rd round there, or at the very least thought that he had won the first 2. I think it might have been a mixture of both. He was, towards the end of that 2nd round, his mouth was wide open when he was breathing, so, you know, it is what it is. Big knockout, face planted, good stoppage, and crazy comeback from Mike Breeden. Now moving up the card to Abu AZAITAR versus Cedric Dumas. Horrible fight. Absolutely horrible fight, and another example of a referee not doing a goddamn fucking thing. Abu AZAITAR pulling the hair of Cedric Dumas. Now, I did give Cedric Dumas a little bit of shit on my Fight Companion stream because I said, you know what I mean, you maybe don't have your loose dreads tied like the way that he did. He essentially just had an elastic in his hair. They were hanging off of the back, and it kind of, you know, it presents the opportunity. Obviously, it's illegal, and he shouldn't be doing it. But it's also, you know, and then he was all concerned about it, trying to fix it and shit. If you're going to have long hair like that, go cornrows. If not, shave that motherfucker off, okay? Cedric Dumas is the most Florida-looking motherfucker I've ever seen in the world, by the way, also. It's insane how Florida he is now. That was just a shit fight, man. I don't understand why Abu AZAITAR is in the UFC. Morocco is filled with phenomenal kickboxers and things like that. Both of these guys did almost fuck all. And I don't even... Is anybody saying robbery or anything like that? I have no fucking idea. In the first round, 5 significant strikes apiece. You know what I mean? Like, this was just not a very good fight. Now, Cedric Dumas has showed us in his last fight and in this one that he's improved in the grappling department quite a bit. When Abu AZAITAR got him down, I was a little concerned because we saw what Josh Frem did to him. However, Cedric Dumas showed us against Cody Brundage that he had made improvements. He had been working on getting back to his feet. He had been working on not getting taken down in the first place. And he was able to reverse Abu AZAITAR when he would take him down. So, showed a few improvements, but also extremely hesitant to throw once Abu AZAITAR hurt him in that first round. And I think that was what ultimately led to a very boring fight because Cedric Dumas didn't really want to commit to anything. Abu AZAITAR seemed to have gassed after the first round, so we got a pretty bad snooze fest. Now, moving up the card to Javid Basharat versus Victor Henry. Fucking hell, dude. This was horrible. I felt so bad for Victor Henry, and this was another example of not just the referee, but the commission in general. The doctor being an absolute fucking idiot, if we're going to be honest. Doctor's in there trying to tell Victor Henry that he did not get kicked in the nuts. Hey, bro, he face planted, grabbing his nuts. He smashed his face into the canvas. He was so not concerned with the rest of his body. He was so concerned with his testicles that he face planted. He clearly got kicked in the nuts 2 times, by the way. The second time, you could see that the cup jostled pretty badly, and there are a whole host of injuries that could come with something like that, with a reaction like that from getting kicked in the nuts. There are so many bad things that could happen, and by the way, none of them are minor. They all need to get taken care of now. He could have twisted his fucking the testy, you know what I mean? He could have ruptured it. There could, like, get this man to a fucking hospital. Don't be trying to tell him he didn't get kicked in the nuts. That was one of the worst reactions to a nut shot I've ever seen. And I don't believe that Victor Henry is that good of an actor, that he was milking that shit or faking it, because once we got to the, you know, close to the 5-minute mark, he was still on his fucking knees. He wasn't trying to get back, or maybe he was trying to get back up, but it sure as shit didn't seem like it. He was probably concerned about maybe not ever having to have fucking kids again. Do you know what I mean? So, goddamn, dude. I felt horrible watching that for Victor Henry. That would have been one of the better fights on the card, I do believe. Up until that moment, it was a very competitive fight, 33-30 in total strikes. 1 takedown for BASHARAT. Victor Henry was able to stop 3 other ones. This would have been a phenomenal fight, and I really fucking hope that Victor Henry did not rupture a testy or did not twist one to the point where it was, because it cuts off the circulation and shit like that, you could end up losing a testy. And hopefully that doctor didn't fucking, you know, contribute to that by trying to convince him that he's fine and he didn't get kicked in the nuts and he should, holy fuck, continue, okay? So, horrible for Victor Henry. Hope he's okay. Moving up the card, Muhammad YAHYA versus Trevor Peek. Fun fight. Trevor Peek's an absolute savage. Glad he got the victory. I did pick him to win. I do believe he was an underdog also. The odds are not listed on the UFC's website, but that is okay. Just a fun fight, man. Just a Trevor Peek fight. He was just being a total dog, you know, pressuring a lot. He got some takedowns. It was a decent fight. Now, I don't know that he's going to have a whole lot of success moving up, but it is what it is. He was also able to tough out a choke towards the end of round 1. And then kept putting his head back in that position. I was getting concerned for him. I thought eventually he might get submitted. But I think that the guy's literally got muscles in his cheeks. When he clenches his jaw, you can see 3 distinct muscles. I think that he was using those to get out of those chokes. Good, fun fight. Just like Trevor Peek, you know, just like his fights usually are. So, yeah, man. Anyways, moving up the card 2. And here we go. Another one, dude. Tim Elliott versus Muhammad MOKAEV. This one was disappointing. The refereeing in this fight was a little disappointing, especially considering it was Jason Herzog. Do you know what I mean? These Abu Dhabi refs, I kind of, like, expect this. I just do. You know what I mean? If anybody remembers, like, Piotr Yan and Jose Aldo. That happened in Abu Dhabi. There's a bunch of crazy shit that has happened in Abu Dhabi with the refs, okay? But this was Herzog. This is a guy that refs everywhere. He refs in Vegas. He refs literally fucking everywhere. They bring him everywhere. He's one of the best referees in the UFC now. Muhammad MOKAEV trying to play the hand-down game, and goddamn is that annoying to watch. Do you know what I mean? It is. He struggled quite a bit with Tim Elliott here. Tim Elliott showed crafty vet. He was able to get a takedown. Once he did, too, Muhammad MOKAEV did not have a whole lot off of his back, which I was very interested about seeing. And I said this in my picks video, it's going to be very interesting to see if Tim Elliott tries to implement the game plan that he has been as he's gotten older, which is more takedown heavy, more grappling heavy, more top pressure heavy. Because I was very interested to see what Muhammad MOKAEV could do off of his back. We know that when he's on top, he's very good with control and clearly submissions also. Very good at pulling them out of his ass at the end of fights. And Tim Elliott did do that, and Muhammad MOKAEV wasn't really able to do a whole lot off of his back whatsoever. Tim Elliott, essentially, once he got that one takedown, he held him down for a good while. Tim Elliott absolutely won the first round. Tim Elliott could have maybe won the second round. He had a couple of submission attempts because he got taken down this time. He was on bottom. He showed us what you should do with an active guard. He was unbelievably... He was making it very difficult for Muhammad MOKAEV to advance position, swiveling the hips constantly, moving around, squirming, just like not making it easy for him. As I said, submission attempts, throwing up legs. I think he almost got a hold of an armbar at one point. He actually had more significant strikes, not by a lot. It was 6-3 in that round, but Muhammad MOKAEV landed quite a few little strikes to the body and shit like that. But in the third round there, man, the scramble and the reversal from Muhammad MOKAEV was beautiful. Tim Elliott got fucking slammed on his head, by the way, also in this fight, which is insane that he did admit that he got knocked out briefly, which I don't blame him, and I said this when I was streaming. I was like, how the fuck is he not knocked out? That was brutal. But it is what it is, man. But Herzog stops the fight because of knees that were essentially legal. What it reminded me of was, oh man, I can't remember who it was that was doing it. Gegard Mousasi versus Chris Weidman, where he kind of lifted up. He had underhooks kind of, or, you know, not underhooks traditionally like this way, but he had his arms hooked under with overhooks. He'd lift Weidman up as he threw the knee, so Weidman's fingers came up off the mat. Also, by the way, you can't just have your fingers on the fucking mat. You have to have weight on your hands. Your palm has to essentially be touching the mat in order for you to be a grounded opponent. So a couple of those knees were in fact legal, but Muhammad MOKAEV had some recovery time, which was frustrating. But it is what it is, man. And he knew what he was doing too. He immediately started protesting once Tim Elliott landed those. It is unfortunate because you just wonder if Tim Elliott, like, could have kept going in that instance without the referee stepping in and stopping it for Muhammad MOKAEV, giving him a minute to breathe, a short break. As soon as they saw the replay, they tried to restart it because they realized it was a perfectly fine legal knee. But in that instance, man, I don't know what a referee should do. If you're a guy who fakes a foul and then it gets caught on the replay, I almost feel like a point should be taken away. Because to be fair to Herzog, he did put them in the exact same position. And he allowed Tim Elliott to be in the you know, Muhammad was up against the cage, down, Elliott was over top of him. They put him back in the exact same position when Tim Elliott landed that knee. But I don't know that that's enough, man, because all the momentum is gone. This is why I don't like Joe Rogan's fucking idea of not having a cage, because if you go out of bounds and the referee has to reset you, all momentum is lost. This happens in jiu-jitsu pretty frequently, right? You've got a guy who's actively attacking. They end up rolling out of bounds. The referee's got to stop him and move him, but now all momentum is lost. That guy's got to try to go for the same submission or whatever he was going for. But you've given the guy who is defending time now to realize, okay, he's going for this. Now, as soon as the ref claps us in, I got to do fucking this, this, and this. And it's just frustrating. I feel like if you get caught faking a foul, maybe a point should be deducted. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments. Okay, main card time. Said Nurmagomedov versus Muin Gafurov. Now, I picked Said Nurmagomedov, and I picked him by guillotine. And I said this in my picks video, and I said this right before they fought while I was streaming this card. Muin Gafurov is not very good. He's a very fun fighter to watch. He was very fun in his debut. It was a crazy fucking fight. He did lose it, so I'm not sure why he got the opportunity to fight Said Nurmagomedov. It's kind of strange, but it is what it is, I guess. And Said Nurmagomedov showed us why he didn't really deserve that opportunity. Dude's wild. His striking is bad. He puts his head down, he closes his eyes, and he just kind of throws. Whereas Said Nurmagomedov is very fucking technical on the feet. Very good, very crisp. Good at keeping distance. The only guy who's beat him recently on the feet is Jonathan Martinez. And that guy might have the best leg kicks pound for pound in the fucking UFC. He's the only guy with multiple leg kick TKOs at this point in time. Or maybe him and Edson Barboza, but either way. Just as I said, Said Nurmagomedov wraps up a guillotine off of a very poorly executed shot from Muin Gafurov after he got chewed up on the feet just a little bit. Oh, I mean, Said Nurmagomedov only landed 5 strikes. Do you know what I mean? Muin Gafurov landed 1. Didn't last long, but great performance by Said Nurmagomedov. He was a dude. Oh, I should have bet on this. Minus 185 Said Nurmagomedov was. How was this guy even fucking close to a pick'em fight with Muin Gafurov after he lost his debut against a guy who's not all that great? You know what I mean? Weird. Anyways, moving up to card 2. Ikram ALISKEROV versus Warley Alves. I picked Ikram ALISKEROV. I thought it would be relatively easy for him. Warley Alves is kind of towards the end of his career. One point in time, very good, obviously, as we know, 8 fucking years ago. Okay, submitted Colby Covington. That was a long time ago, though, so that just kind of shows you how long in the tooth he is. He's taken quite a bit of damage. Ikram ALISKEROV's striking is a lot better than I think people realize it is, and I think that this kind of showed it. That switch fucking knee, the jumping switch knee, like Alex Pereira style, stunning, okay? The head kick that he landed partially seemed to maybe stun Warley Alves a little bit. He dropped him with the jab. Dude, Ikram ALISKEROV is a savage, and it would be very interesting to see him get a chance to rematch Khamzat Chimaev at some point in their careers. It would also be interesting to see him against a guy like Bo Nickel or something, but Ikram, I do believe, has earned himself a ranked opponent, so I don't know that they're going to make that fight right now. I think that they will wait until they are both ranked if Bo Nickel makes it there, pardon me, but man, dude's good on the feet, and we haven't even really seen him have to grapple. Do you know what I mean? In his debut, he got the knockout also. So it's going to be interesting watching him moving forward, man. It was stunning. Stunning knockout. Do you know what I mean? Head kick, follows it up, and then drops him with the jab. That beautiful switch jumping knee, and then just teed off on him. And Warley Alves, I thought the ref was going to step in for a standing TKO. And then Warley Alves did go down, so thankfully the ref was right there. All right, now we're at Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. Dude, this shit drove me fucking nuts. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. I do not understand, dude. Magomed Ankalaev gets Johnny Walker down fine. Johnny Walker's not in the best position. Magomed Ankalaev's landed some good left hands and shit like that. Like, he's definitely winning at this point. However, if you look at the stats, now I don't know if their UFC website's just out of fucking in outer space or something, dude, but Magomed Ankalaev apparently landed 16 strikes to Johnny Walker's 17. Now, Johnny Walker was landing quite a few inside leg kicks. Magomed Ankalaev was checking quite a few of them, which is something that he's probably worked on since the Blachowicz fight, where his legs got absolutely decimated and he was barely able to walk. He was literally hopping around on one foot at points in that fight. Man, illegal knee, the most blatant illegal knee I've ever fucking seen. By the way, these men are ginormous, okay? So, and I'm not trying to shit on Aljamain Sterling, but what I'm trying to just emphasize is that Johnny Walker took a knee to the chin where it whipped his neck around from a guy who probably walked in that cage 220 plus, maybe 230. Do you know what I mean? These are huge fucking men. A guy who has very powerful kicks off of the back leg, which, by the way, the knee, if I'm not mistaken, was with his left leg. Maybe I'm mistaken on that. It doesn't really fucking matter, though. Magomed Ankalaev is a giant, and he hits hard as fuck. Johnny Walker ate that shit, okay? Dumb fuck doctor, again, the same doctor from earlier, trying to convince Victor Henry that your family jewels were not what got hit, even though he I've never seen a man face plant due to getting kicked in the body, okay? Usually, it's only the nuts that could cause that kind of reaction. Either way, we're not talking about that now. Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. Okay, the referee, dude. What an... not the referee, the doctor. Absolute fucking mongoloid, okay? Idiot. Should not ever be there for another event in Abu Dhabi ever again. Get rid of him and get a new doctor, okay? He asks poor Johnny Walker, who just got, again, kneed and like, yeah, the rule sucks, right? It does. But he wasn't doing the Aljamain Sterling shit or the Muhammad MOKAEV shit, where he's like playing the hands down game. He was in a position where he was on one knee. And whether or not you like the rule, it's still there, right? So Magomed Ankalaev knees him in the chin. Doctor comes in, asks him 2 fucking questions. He asks him, "Where are you?" You should probably be a little bit more specific when you were an English-speaking doctor talking to a guy in Johnny Walker who, credit to him, is learning English, but is very rudimentary in his English speaking. He can do fun little videos where he says a few words and shit like that. He can probably speak a few sentences. He's learning. He's putting effort in. High stakes situation. You just got kneed in the fucking chin. The crowd is screaming. You have, like... He says the desert. Hey, he's right. He's right. What are we talking about, dude? Yeah, I'm in the desert. Sir, what country are you in? That would have been a better question to ask. Now, then he asks him, what round is it? I don't even know if Johnny Walker responded to him. That was it. He called off the fight from that. By the way, if you go to a doctor's office as a civilian and they're trying to check if you're concussed, you don't just get asked 2 questions. They'll check your eyes. They'll do all this shit. There's a whole, like, it's a very subjective diagnosis. You do not get to, there's no blood test. There's no fucking nothing for it. You can't really 100% determine whether or not a guy has a concussion, but there's a few telltale signs, like the eyes and shit like that. You got asked 2 questions, and the ref says nope, and he got one of them right, dude. Even if he didn't respond to what round it is. And to be fair, man, when you're in the middle of it, in a fight, your adrenaline's... We've seen guys Dude, Israel Adesanya didn't know it was the last round against Sean Strickland. And that's one example. We've seen fights... We've seen that happen very often. Justin Gaethje's done this before. What round is it? In between rounds, asking his coach. This is not unheard of. You know what I mean? And he just ate a huge fucking knee. And this Retard doctor calls it off from that. And that is unbelievably frustrating. Johnny Walker's confused, doesn't understand what's going on, is trying to fight, pushes John. You really get to see how big and strong Johnny Walker is in this moment. He pushes the referee. The referee was like, holy fuck. Security comes in. John Kavanaugh comes in. Johnny Walker's just like, moves them all out of the way like they're children, trying to go at Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed Ankalaev should at this point realize, I just illegally need this guy in the fucking chin. And he's confused as to what's happening. And he starts trying to go at him. Hey, bro, you fucked up. What are you doing? Why are you trying to act like Johnny Walker's like what? Mind-blowing to me. Dana White finally comes in, gets control of the situation, because Johnny Walker is not going to go and push his boss. He'll never fight again. Do you know what I mean? So thankfully, Dana White was able to come in there. And I hope that Johnny Walker doesn't get like severely punished because of this, because I think that that was a bullshit situation. I could totally understand how a guy who's only a couple minutes into a fight, all this adrenaline, is that fucking confused, and also just riled up and angry, because what the fuck are you doing? Do you know what I mean? Magomed Ankalaev, when they get their hands raised, bro goes over to Johnny Walker tries to go over to him and be like, hey man, sorry, I don't know, whatever. And Magomed Ankalaev kind of like gives him a short little shot on the chest, like pushes him away. Hey, you fucked up. What are we doing here? Also, why the fuck was it a no contest? That should not have, there's no way that should have been a no contest. Johnny Walker was illegally kneed in the chin. Blatant foul. This is not an accidental cup shot. This is Johnny Walker's on one knee, as grounded as it gets, kneed in the chin by a giant man, head whipped around, and it's a no contest. But when Petr Yan has now beat up Aljamain Sterling for, and I'm not even, I think that Petr Yan getting disqualified was the right decision. Petr Yan's winning that fight clear as day. It's downhill. You know what I mean? For Petr Yan at this point. Aljamain Sterling is not looking great. Body language bad. Stumbling all over the place. The knee didn't land as flush as this one. Now, it did land good. I'm not saying that it didn't. And again, I'm saying Petr Yan should have been disqualified. But why was that a disqualification? Title changes hands. We're in Abu Dhabi. The Dagestani. A no contest. Like, it's insane to me. They should rebook this fight. I picked Johnny Walker to win as an upset. I just don't understand the no contest. And I don't understand Magomed Ankalaev's venom towards the guy that he just illegally kneed. And I do not understand the crowd's reaction to Johnny Walker. He, again, illegally kneed. The doctor called off the fight. He didn't. He answered the questions to the best of his ability and didn't, by my, like, obviously I'm not a fucking doctor, but looking at him, maybe he was slightly concussed. I think he's fine, dude. He looks fine. He looks fine to fight. Why are we doing this? He's not flopping around all over the place. He's not pretending he's got salt in his eyes. By the way, Aljamain Sterling got minutes to recover. That doctor came in like right now and started asking him questions. How about you wait a minute? They just changed the rules so that if you get eye poked, the doctor has to wait 90 seconds before he comes in and asks you if you can see. Because guys will be panicking at the beginning of that. At the beginning of an eye poke. You're like, holy fuck, I can't see. Do you know what I mean? Give him a minute to blink it out. Give him a cold cloth. Let them fucking whatever. And then ask them, hey, so maybe, hey, just maybe, a guy who gets 5 minutes to recover from an illegal knee maybe should have been given a little bit more time before you get an English-speaking doctor to come in and ask a Portuguese-speaking fighter a couple of questions. Do you know what I mean? That was a very frustrating moment for me. And I felt for Johnny Walker. And it made me dislike Magomed Ankalaev, dude. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? He was a bit of a poor sport. Whatever, dude. You know what I mean? After the Jan Blachowicz fight, which in my opinion was one of the best scored draws ever. And now he's doing it here when you're the reason this fight's getting called off. You fucking muppet. Moving up the card to Kamaru Usman versus Khamzat Chimaev. Okay. This was very interesting. I picked Khamzat Chimaev to win. I said that I didn't think he would steamroll Kamaru Usman. I thought it would be a tough fight for him because we've seen him have tough fights with, or a tough fight, pardon me, with Gilbert Burns. Do you know what I mean? And I know that he took time to move up to middleweight, and I know Usman took this on 11 days' notice, but man, Khamzat Chimaev has a very, very, very good round in him. Do you know what I mean? And I've rewatched the fight since, and I am a little more sympathetic to the idea that it should have maybe been a draw. As I was watching it live, I scored round 2 for Kamaru Usman. He landed a big right hand and a couple of other shots, but one big right hand was by far the biggest shot of the round. So I scored round 2 for Usman. Round 3, I could see going to CHIMAEV because I thought that they were pretty even on the feet, and then I thought the takedown and the few shots that he landed with that, like, he didn't land a whole lot, not a whole lot of damaging shots, but I thought maybe that would have done you know, done it. And then when they got back to their feet, I thought that Usman would have needed to do something relatively big to kind of steal that back, optically speaking. And then they had that moment where they brawled a little bit. I thought that they both landed shots. Usman did get a little bit better of the exchange, but it wasn't instant. Like, he didn't really have Khamzat wobbled or anything like that. So it was a very close third round. I could have potentially seen it being a Khamzat decision, 29-27. I did score round 1 at 10-8. I don't know why Justin Gaethje's upset about that. It's very strange. All 3 judges scored at 10-8, I do believe. I've rewatched the fight, and I've gone back and looked at the stats also to see if there were shots that maybe I missed that got counted. And Usman clearly outstruck him in that third round. 41-34 total strikes, 22-13 significant strikes. And he was getting the better of the exchanges. He was landing the better shots, the straight shots. Khamzat Chimaev's striking is a little sloppy, especially after that third round. If he uses all of his gas to grapple, his striking looks like shit after the fact. And it was a good fight. And I'm not saying, you know, I'm not going to cry robbery or anything like that. Like, it was pretty close. And especially watching it live, judges don't have the luxury of hindsight. They don't get to go back and rewatch it. They don't get to go back and slow moments down or any of this shit. So I can understand a judge scoring round 3 for Khamzat live, and I'm not overly upset about it, but it's unfortunate because Usman is a bad motherfucker. The dude took the fight on 11 days notice or 10 days notice, whatever it was, and had a wonderful showing of himself, especially after that first round, man. And I said this when we were watching it live. I said, look, Usman had a horrible first round against Leon Edwards. He came back and won 3 rounds. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is, guys, you know, can't be shook, you know? You got to fucking put him away or just completely shut his game down. And Khamzat wasn't really able to do that. Khamzat's first round was phenomenal. Very good back control. Switched up to the body triangle because Usman was trying to shuck him off the top. Khamzat was getting a little high at moments. Unbelievable control, man. The guy's legs are probably insanely strong. But considering Usman, dude, if this fight had 2 more rounds, even with a 10-day Usman, and if this fight had even 3 rounds with a full camp Usman or a 5-rounder with a full camp Usman, I think Usman takes that fight. Khamzat Chimaev had almost a whole year to move up to middleweight. Do you know what I mean? So Usman just kind of showed up and cut less weight. It wasn't like he was planning on this shit. So slightly underwhelming. But it is still impressive that, and you know, I don't hope this doesn't get lost on people. Kamaru Usman is still Kamaru Usman. You know what I mean? And he's not like on a 6-fight skid. He's not like Anderson Silva towards the end of his career. He lost twice to one guy. You know what I mean? And Leon Edwards is no fucking slouch. He lost twice to one guy. It's not like he's been beaten by everybody now. So for Khamzat to even have that competitive of a fight with him is pretty impressive. Especially considering he's relatively young and shit like that. But man, moving forward, I'd be concerned for him with some of the guys at middleweight. I think that if Sean Strickland gets past the first round, Sean Strickland finishes him. Beats the shit out of him, I think. Because Khamzat's striking is not great. And I think that after that first round, his shots become a lot more telegraphed. And a lot easier to get out of the way of. Usman showed us that. I think that Duplessis... I don't think Khamzat takes down Duplessis. And I think that Duplessis fucks him up on the feet. And I think that Duplessis could even potentially get him down. He's so big and so strong. So there's a few matchups at middleweight that would have me concerned for him. Dana's still pretty adamant that he is getting the title shot. I do believe he broke his hand, so I don't know what they're going to do about that. But it is what it is, man. Also, I'll just briefly touch on this. His video's gone way longer than I thought it was. This was a good card, though. You know, some weird shit happened, but it was what it is what it is. Khamzat Chimaev's post-fight speech was beautiful, in my opinion. Okay? Because unlike a lot of other people, and I'm not trying to shit on anybody here, but unlike a lot of other people who pick sides, which I don't think is a good thing to do in a situation like what Chimaev's talking about. Just a beautiful speech, man. I don't even think this guy's got kids. And he's that empathetic towards children of all types. of all races, of all religions, of all nationalities, and it was touching, and I think that that won me over. I haven't been a huge Khamzat fan. I haven't been entertaining the crazy hype that surrounds him. As I said, I didn't think that he would run over Usman. I thought it would be a tough fight, even on 11 days' notice. But the post-fight speech, he kind of like made me a fan of him, because I thought it was the perfect way to address that situation. Whereas we saw a couple of times, you know, people took sides, and it is what it is, man. Like, whatever. That's their prerogative. I'm not gonna fucking bitch about their speech. I'm not gonna speech police here, but I thought Khamzat's speech was beautiful, especially considering he's a very violent man. But then when he talks like that, I'm like, holy shit, you know what I mean? He does, you know, because we just see him as the ice-cold Khamzat Chimaev, the fucking wolf. And then he goes out there and expresses emotion like that. He says he wasn't happy all week. He wasn't happy in the cage. And he just doesn't want kids to die of any kind. And he thinks that everybody can live together and be happy. Or he hopes that, you know. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't share that sentiment. And there might even be some people of his own religion that were angry at him for what he said. But I liked it, and he earned a fan. So, good, you know, beautiful speech by Khamzat. Moving up. Main event. Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. Holy shit, man. Islam Makhachev, dude. Stunning head kick. Now, Volkanovski does not defend properly. So he had his hand up there, which is fine. You really should cross block a kick. Your hand is not enough. Oftentimes your arm is not enough. You really want to get two up there. Islam Makhachev had gone to the body a couple of times. Alexander Volkanovski's left hand, pardon me. Right hand's up here. Left hand down by his body, as if he's ready to like parry away or block a body kick. So I think that Islam going to the body the way that he did had Volk thinking body, had him thinking, I'll just keep one hand up here. I want to block the body shot also. And I don't know that a cross block would have mattered. I don't know that it would have mattered if he got both hands across, because of the placement of the kick. He went right over the guard of Alexander Volkanovski. It wasn't even a situation like, it wasn't even like a Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, like Justin Gaethje's head kick on Poirier, where Poirier had his arm up and it hit the arm partially, right? And just wrapped around the back of the head. It wasn't even like that. It was right over top of the hand. Volk's hands here, shins here. Perfect. Perfectly placed head kick. It's unfortunate, man. Volk's post-fight press conference was fucking heartbreaking, okay? And it seems like he's trying to... It seems like he's depressed or has, you know, depression, and he just doesn't want to say it. That's what it sounds like to me. Because, like, you watch his body language and the way that... he was constantly moving around, like nervously moving, trying so hard not to break down. And the fucking dickhead, Oscar Willis, continues to poke, prod, pry at Alexander Volkanovski's mental health struggle, which is like, bro, why are you doing that? Because this is like normal, dude. If there's something eating you up and you don't want to talk about it because you know that it's going to make you emotional, the second somebody asks you, it's like all bets are off, dude. Why would you fuck off? Don't ask me. Do you know what I mean? Don't try and give me a hug. No, just enough. And it seems like that's what happened to Volk. He came out there. He was trying very hard to be stoic and not break down. And Oscar Willis was like, "Oh, really, dude? These will make good headlines. You have mental health issues? Let me fucking poke you." So that's very unfortunate, and it makes me a little concerned for his career moving forward. Not necessarily like his next fight or anything, but I really don't want him to stay around longer than he should. Because he kept saying, like, if I'm not doing something, my head's fucking, I get in my head. And I know what he's talking about. I understand the feeling. Obviously not to the same extent. I'm not nearly as intense of a man as Volkanovski, and I don't have the same kind of occupation, but I do understand what he means. And it's unfortunate to see. Insane performance by Islam Makhachev. Probably one of his, in my opinion, the most impressive victory yet. We have never seen anybody do that to Alexander Volkanovski, who isn't a fucking way bigger than him. Only other time he's been KO'd was at welterweight. And the man's 5'6". You know what I mean? So he shouldn't have been at welterweight anyways. but phenomenal performance. Beautiful head kick, by the way. I'm not going to shit on MAKHACHEV at all. That was perfect head kick. It's unfortunate, man. It is. You know, it is what it is. Well, it's unfortunate if you're a Volk fan, I guess. If you're an Islam fan, it is what. But at the same time, dude, this sport is so crazy because I really like Alexander Volkanovski. I think he's a great guy. He's a family man, and I like that because I've got 2 kids. And I think that's why CHIMAEV's speech hit me the way that it did. But Volk, I kind of like, you know what I mean? Not that we would be friends, but I just, something about his personality meshes with mine, in my opinion. Whereas Islam Makhachev's a little bit like, you know what I mean? But that being said, we got to witness a beautiful display of total violence from Islam Makhachev, and it was incredible to watch, even though I really like Alexander Volkanovski. This is the only sport that can make you feel that way, where you're sad for one fighter because he got KO'd, but you're like, holy fuck, that was beautiful on behalf of the other fighter. And that's why this sport is the best sport in the world, and I don't watch any other fucking sports. Combat sports is where it's at, dude. There's no other sports that can make you feel like that. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. I hope they don't have Islam move up right away. I would like to see him defend against some of the lightweights. I think that he can break Khabib's record. I think he's better than Khabib. His striking is beautiful. Like, he has very good striking, and I said this in my picks video. I said his striking's really underrated, especially when he's firmly planted and he's not, like, moving forward like a maniac. And he was very controlled, very measured in this fight. Yeah, not much else to say about it. Amazing performance. I hope Volk's okay. And I hope that he's okay by January, because this crazy motherfucker's trying to fight in January, which is insane because Islam probably won't fight by January. And he didn't get head kick KO'd, man. Like, Volk's nuts. So, yeah, it is what it is. I hope that he's not gonna do himself in. You know what I mean? So, anyways, like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye.